I am Jimmy Smith and I'm delighted to have you on board. This channel is all about wine education, helping you maximize your enjoyment from every drop of wine. Here I'm looking at a very in-depth series called Mastering Spain. I go through every nook and cranny of Spain, leaving no stone unturned to give you all the information you need about some of your favorite Spanish wines. In this series, I'm looking at the autonomous region of Castilla y León. And if you wish to have access to all of my mastering series, plus much more like food and wine recommends, tasting notes, then please go across to my Wine with Jimmy Club. This is my monthly subscription service for just £3.99 a month, and it gives you access to a lot of this exclusive video content. Let's start talking about Castilla y León. So this is a very important part of Spain. It is located on the North Meseta Plain, and it's one of Spain's most significant regions. It's been shaped by centuries of battles and shifting political allegiances. It was also home to the famous Catholic monarchs of Fernando II and Isabel, who really initiated the unification of modern Spain in the 15th century. Now, Castilla y León is not just for us wine fans, because if you are in this couple where one of you is a big wine fan and the other not so much, then Castilla y León could actually be for both of you, because there is over 60% of Spanish heritage sites here, including more than 500 castles, 12 cathedrals, and 8 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. This is more than any region worldwide. And it also, of course, does host some of Spain's and the world's most acclaimed wineries. The picture you see there gives you an idea of some of the dramatic architecture that we can find. Number one is the amazing Alcazar in Segovia, that's the top left. Top right is the Cathedral of Burgos, situated on the Camino de Santiago. The bottom left is the Peñafiel Castle, which is found in Ribera del Duero, close to Aranda del Duero. And then the famous Roman arches, the Aqueduct of Segovia, on the bottom right, not far away at all. So the key life force of Castilla y León, specifically for wine, or at least most of the wine regions, is the Duero River, also called the Douro River in Portugal. This originates in the Sierra de Urbion in Castilla y León near La Rioja. So you'll see there's a picture of the Duero in the background, but you'll see I've done a cross section here, and you'll see at the top here the Pico de Urbion, which is where it originates before traveling down to Soria, traveling down to Aranda del Duero, Peñafiel, which is the castle that I showed you earlier, before going all the way through places like Toro, Zamora, to the border of Portugal, finally in its lowest course in that Portuguese section. So the river winds through the region for 556 miles. That's 895 kilometers, crossing into Portugal as the Douro before flowing into the Atlantic Ocean. Let's talk a little bit about the history here to get a good feel about the cultural historical significance of the region. References to vineyards here date back thousands of years. The Greeks wrote about the cultivated vines of the Vaccaei tribe, V-A-C-C-E-O, in the Douro Basin in the pre-Roman city of Burgidum. This city would later lend its name to the region of Bierzo, up in the northwestern section of Castilla y León on the Galician border. So viticulture thrived in the region under the Romans, and this is where we see the introduction of clay amphoras for fermentation. The Via della Plata, which you see on your diagram to the left, the Silver Way, created a commercial trade route connecting Astorga, a town within the Leon province, to Merida, which is an ancient source of gold and copper, now the capital of the Extremadura region. You can see that on your map just here. So you can see that Merida is situated here. Okay, and then Astorga is up here, but you don't see it on this map specifically. Today, the Via della Plata, which is actually one of those connecting routes that connects to the Camino de Santiago, or the Camino Francas, is a very key route that people do walk as one of those pilgrimage routes. The Romans also introduced new ploughing techniques to increase efficiency in land management as well. But of course, the Romans did not last forever. And after the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, the Visigoths ruled the area until the conquest by the Moors at the start of the 8th century. Now, alcohol consumption was very much illegal under the Quranic teachings of the Moors, but viticulture did continue as grapes were used for distillation of alcohol for perfume, for medicinal applications, but also for consumption, grapes for consumption. As Christianity gained momentum in Spain during the Middle Ages with the Reconquista, so too did viticulture, certainly to meet demand for sacramental purposes as the blood of Christ. Monastic orders, predominantly Cistercian, planted new vineyards and revived the old ones in the region. Okay, let's talk more about the Christian pilgrims, because as we know, the Douro Valley started to prosper off the back of this Reconquista. And this is in part due to the Christian pilgrims who would be traipsing their way to the holy city of Santiago de Compostela in Galicia. Now, I've shown you a map here of the yellow route, which is widely called the Camino de Santiago, but actually is also known as Camino Frances, which is your French route. I was mentioning earlier the Via della Plata, which is the red route that comes up here and meets the Camino de Santiago at Astorga, not far from Leon, as you see here. So these are some of those. And that's the very famous shell picture of the Camino de Santiago. Now, travel and trade opportunities grew and vineyard plantings also increased as new monasteries, churches, abbeys, and villages sprouted up along the route. We then have some very famous references here. The wines of the Kingdom of Castile were highly prized, commanding very high prices, and were favored by the merchant class, but of course feeding that into the royal circles. The wines of Toro, T-O-R-O, were certainly considered extremely high quality. They were even included on the manifest for the Pinta, one of the 3 ships used by Christopher Columbus on his explorations to the New World. And additionally, Queen Isabel I is said to have preferred wines from Tierra de Medina, which is today where we find Rueda, and there were regulations enacted to protect wines from that area. In the 19th century, there was certainly very high quality fame achieved, but also varying amounts of devastation. In 1864, the Vega Sicilia winery was founded in what we today called Ribera del Duero. It was the winemaker Don Eloy Lacanda y Chavez, who was trained in Bordeaux in France, who then returned to Spain, planting Tempranillo alongside French Bordeaux varieties such as Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Malbec. At that time, the use of French grape varieties was certainly very rare, but he also went further. introducing hygienic practices within the winery, Bordeaux vinification techniques such as remontage, which is pumping over, such as the likes of punching down, as well as the use of new barrels. Now, as his fame increased, his tenure as a winemaker, the wines of Vega Sicilia get very high praise. And by the 1870s, Vega Sicilia was supplying wine to the Spanish royal family. The wines took very high honors in 1929 in the World Fair in Barcelona. And it's still today an exceptionally highly reputed brand, of course. Now, as Vega Sicilia's star was on the rise, Phylloxera was devastating vineyards in France, and that is in that latter part of the 19th century. Wineries around the region of Castilla y León were certainly called upon to supply wine to the French, and this was an absolute boon for the Spanish, including other regions such as Rioja, Navarra, Aragon, and Catalonia. They would see the opportunity, especially with the invention of railways connecting key cities and then connecting into France, able to get their product into France, which was having, of course, somewhat of a glut of wine production due to the lousy louse Phylloxera. In the late 1880s, eventually Phylloxera arrived in Castilla y León, but the solution had then been discovered by the French, which was, of course, grafting onto American rootstocks. A little mention about contemporary Castilla y León, and there's 5 key figures there on your screen, but there are many that we can pick from. So, the European Economic Community, which Spain joins in the 1980s, provided a significant investment boost to the industry. Vega Sicilia's fame also brought additional funds to this area, which helped to grow individual wineries as well as fund technological advancements for wine production in the region. Let's talk about these pioneers going from left to right. First of all, Alejandro Fernández, establishing in the 1970s Tinta Pesquera, very important Ribera del Duero producer, situated in what's called the Golden Mile towards the west of Ribera del Duero. You then have next door to him Mariana Garcia, who was the winemaker at Vega Sicilia for a number of years before moving across to Bodegas Alto. You then have Pingus with Peter Sisek in the middle of your picture. All of those really showcasing Tempranillo on the world stage. We then have second from the right, Raúl Pérez, considered one of Spain's most innovative winemakers, focusing on indigenous grape varieties from the Bierzo region and really putting Bierzo in the minds of very key movers and shakers in the wine industry. And alongside Raúl is Ricardo Pérez Palacios, who is working with his uncle Álvaro Palacios to showcase the Mencía grape variety. Well, that's it for this video. My next one is on the location and climate. And as I mentioned, if you'd like to access that video, along with all the other exclusive videos in the Mastering Spain series, along with Mastering Germany, you can go across to the Wine with Jimmy Club. You can purchase the monthly subscription for just £3.99 a month. Cancel at any time, but it gives you access to lots of exclusive video content. Muchas gracias. I've been Jimmy. Thank you very much. Until next time. Ciao.